Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We got a really nice Stratocaster on the bench today. We're putting a HOTRAILS Seymour Duncan in the middle position. But before we do that, I'm going to measure and see where we're at when we start with this guitar. We're changing the strings. He's got, I think, flat wounds on it. And we're going to put some regular New York XLs, the Darios. Let's get to work. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe, and please share. It helps me out a lot. So yeah, we're gonna put this guy in there. Seymour Duncan, HOTRAILS, HOTRAILS to hell. Every time I get a HOTRAILS pickup to put in, I think of HOTRAILS to hell from Blue Oyster Cult, one of my favorite bands. I grew up in New York, and yeah. They used to come and buy pot, did I say that out loud, from my first bass teacher. We're talking about 100 years ago. And I didn't know who they were. But, yeah. And then here, fast forward, I don't know, 30, 40 years, my band ended up opening up for them at a show a couple of years ago. So, yeah. Let's get to work. I want to measure this guitar. Because it did not have flat wounds on it, I think, when I let it go. And as I look down, he says, oh, I haven't touched a thing, but when I look down at the saddles, they're a little bit like this, and he's probably going to say, oh no, that's the way you left it. But if he restrung it, then something else occurred as well. And I was noticing that the bridge, it's pretty close to where I would leave it. It might just have needed to be tweaked, but he, by his own admission, he did change the strings. So let's see where we're at. Don't know. I can't tell you what I put on it when it left here, but I know it wasn't flat wounds. Neck relief is good. This is a really nice instrument. I like this guitar a lot. It is really cool. I mean, it's I believe it's an Eric Clapton signature series. It's got noiseless pickups in it, and a mid boost. Oddly enough, being that it's a U.S. made, it's got the truss rod adjustment up here and not down there. But what it does have is the tilt function, so you can set your neck angle as needed. And the last time I had it, I remember clearly all the saddle screws were protruding, and that's where neck angle comes in. No, you don't go and buy shorter screws. You don't take them out of there and grind them down. All right, let's hear from you now. Let's hear from you. So let's de-string. Oh, really quickly though, let's find out where our string height is. Now, once I take all this apart and do my thing on it, we're going to do a setup on it afterwards because it'll just be taken apart all the way down. Yeah, good string action. It's just above 4, right at almost 5. Above 5, way above 5, above 5. So, possible that with the string change, you know, we got some wonkiness down here, but I can tell by looking at this bridge and saddle assembly, the way that they go like that. Nah, I don't do it like that. Saddles should be absolutely level to the deck of the guitar. Forward and back difference, yeah, that's the intonation. Height, yeah, different. That's where your string action is, but they should all follow the same exact adjustment across the radius of the fretboard, and it's not. So, I know somebody was boogering around with my work. No, I'm going to mention any names. I'll just look at the party and whistle. You know who you are. All right, I'm going to pause while I de-string it because we have to get this out. We're going to change this pickup with the HOTRAILS. And once we get that done, then we're going to do a whole setup. So stand by. So got the strings off. We unscrewed the single ply vintage throwback pick guard, and it exposes our, we have a stacked pot in the center that runs through the preamp. The battery is in the back. I also took off because I'm going to have to do that again. This is the guy we're changing. There is a staple stuck to and crossing two of the, just a random, you never know what you're going to find. And this is a relatively new guitar, by the way. A random staple stud crossing two of the magnetic poles, magnetic posts. I don't think that would have affected anything or the way that it plays, but interesting. There's your preamp circuit. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, we got to get this tape off of here because I have to follow that down. We just have to mount the new pickup. Looks like two leads, a ground, and the north and south leads. Let's see what we got here. Get this open. I'm going to definitely cut you guys off unless I step to the side. I just want to get this tape out of the way. I don't know why they use tape. Why don't you just put a zip tie on it? Why don't you just put a zip tie? That's what the rest of the world is using. Put a piece of tape on it, and all you're doing is yanking on wires. Zip tie? You don't need it anymore? Snip it. Take it off. All right. I got. Where is my? Because that's the way I'm going to put it back. Yep, middle, right there. Bing, bang, boom. Double check. That's neck. And this is middle. So we have to desolder that, and the ground is probably going to the volume pot, which it is, and it's of course soldered in with the three other ground wires for the pickups. I'm going to eliminate that. Don't like it that way. Please. Well, let me see if I can get the solder station set up. Stand by while I get the solder station set up, because that takes a second. I don't leave it out and open all the time. So what we're going to do is desolder from here, which is this guy right there, and I'm going to snip off the ground wire. I don't believe in trying to glob on a whole bunch of ground wires onto one solder point. It's okay if you get it right the first time, but if you don't, it's a mess. It's a mess. Let's see if they curled the wire. They did not. Perfect. Perfecto. So that one comes off. Just that quick, we desoldered that terminal. And we probably won't need the solder iron right away. What I want to do is snip off just that ground wire, and then I will make its own ground. The grounds, contrary to popular belief, do not have to be all put together and, touching each other. It's a ground. It's a common ground. As long as it goes to the back of the volume pot, we're golden. So we're going to snip that one off right close. And that pickup is ready to come out. And now we're going to remove that pickup and mount the new pickup. And this is tricky because we really don't want to mess up anything else. Middle. I hope this helps any of you that are going to try to do this. It's tricky. It's not as easy as you would think. But as far as pickup swaps go, this is about as easy as it gets. So there's the pickup that we took out. There's our pickup that we took out, noiseless Fender pickup. These are good pickups, but they're a little pedestrian for my liking, and I think that's what this client is after. Now, got 2 leads coming off of that one, and 5 leads coming off of our Seymour Duncan. So what do? We got to solder the red and the white leads together. I'm pretty certain that's what we got to do. Red and white go together. Green and bear go together. And then black is the one that goes to our switch. Red and white are going to get soldered together and capped. You follow? And then green and bear are going to go together and go to ground. Black is going to go to the switch. Now, what do? You know, red and white is easy. We're just gonna put those 2 together and put a heat shrink on them so that they stay out of the way. Get here where I can show what's happening. Get something to clasp it thusly. These are the 2 easy ones. Then the green and the bear are going to go together, and then we have to extend the green and the bear because they're going to have to go all the way around to a ground point, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky, but not too bad. So all I'm doing is tinning the red and the white together, basically connecting them. And the green and the bear have to go together. And of course, one is always longer than the other, and it never really wants to go together. But you got to make it happen, Captain. Get them kind of sort of half-ass twisted together, and then just solder them. You're basically tinning them together. And then we're going to add a longer ground lead. Like that. So for the red and the white, we're just going to put a really small heat shrink on it. Sorry, I know I'm in the way. A really small heat shrink, just a little heat shrink. And the best way is to fold it back, put it over, measure, and snip it off. So we're just not using those leads. If we had a push-pull and a coil splitter, yeah, the red and the white would come into play, but not today. And if you do it this way, you can always take it apart later on. You don't just cut them and tape them. Tape is our enemy. It's not our friend. Just heat up your heat shrink and you're golden, right? Now, I want to get a longer lead on our ground because we're going to put the black lead on the switch, and the ground we're going to need a little bit longer wire to get over to the, a little bit longer, not really long, but a little bit longer, over to the back of the volume pot. And I usually have rather use a cloth covered. I've got all kinds of wire in here, but I'm just going to grab a random. Yeah, it's white, so what? It takes the ground. Got to tin it. You got to tin these ends, and then you're going to attach one to the green and the bare, which we just soldered together, and then we're going to put a heat shrink over that. So stand by, and I'll show you that when it's finished. So what we have done, just to reiterate, red and white go together, solder those that joint, put a heat shrink on it. All my practice is to extend the ground, and that's all I've done here. That's what this white lead is here onto the green and bare. And same as before, you want to kind of put a heat shrink on there just to make sure that that bare part doesn't touch anything you don't want it to touch. So put a little heat shrink on that. This is going to ground to our volume pot. This little black lead here, and I know it's hard to see, is going to go to our switch. That's it. I already mounted the pickup in the pick guard right there. And it looks kind of like that, right in the middle, right there. So let's solder it back together. And we should be ready to put it together and do our setup. Hopefully it will go nice and smooth. I extend my ground wires. It's just I don't like trying to stretch things, and it just makes it easier. And then if I have to, I'll loop it, or if it's too long, I'll cut it off and make it be somewhere else. Right? You follow? So the ground is probably the easiest one to do first. And again, it does not have to go back to the exact point. So you just kind of clean it off and put a little glob of solder and get it ready to accept your ground. Put the ground on first because it's a little bit longer. I'm trying to not tin my iron over the guitar, as you can see. And don't touch anything else. Yep. And a little bit right on the tip again, just to give it something. Just to give it something to hold on to. And if you do it this way, it should just take a moment to just touch it, and it will make a nice joint. Come on, you don't make a liar out of me. Here we go. Yeah, and if you tug on it and it doesn't move, you're golden. And then hopefully we didn't burn any other wires. Yeah, That's never good. Our ground is attached. I was probably in the way. Now what we got to do is make sure that our lug is ready to accept. Where is my solder? Right there. Make sure that our lug on the switch is ready to accept. You want to make sure it's loaded. And then just heat it and push the wire through. That's it. Just it. Just that quick. All right. Again, a gentle tug will tell you that you're home. I hope all that came out. It's hard to illustrate. And then I want to put our wires back together here, because now we have a little bit extra. So that we can get them down into this little cavity right here. They were taped before. I'm going to use a zip tie. Just like that. And then everything else will end up in that cavity. Theoretically. Theoretically. Probably make a liar out of me. Probably will make a liar out of me. And they never go back together the same way they came apart, I'll be honest with you. But we'll see. We'll see. Tape right. That was where the tape was. That's where I put the zip tie. Doesn't have to be super tight. It just has to hold it. Now, everything else should tuck right in there like the way it came out. Again, theoretically. We've had it all undone, and the wires are not tucked the way they were originally, so it might take a little bit of finessing. A little bit of finessing. Or not. Yahtzee. And that, my friends, is how you install. Oh, geez, it says Seymour Duncan upside down. No, I'm only kidding. All right, it's going to take me a few minutes to put all these screws in, and then we're going to test it. Actually, you know what? We could test it right now before we put the screws in. How about that? Let's adjust our neck and middle. That's our boost. Oh yeah. Just middle. Tone. There's our boost. This should be middle and bridge. Beautiful. Just bridge. Wow, I can hear the extra power when you hit that active circuit. Beautiful. I love it. All right, stand by while I get all this screwed back together, and then we're going to string it. And we might string it and do a setup on this video, but it'll have to be quick. Let me get it screwed together. We'll be right back. Okay, so we have it restrung. We're not going to have time to do the whole setup. I'll do a second part just to do the setup on this guitar, but tuned up, pretty close. What we're going to do is just play that pickup, which is this guy right here, middle position. Ooh, that's loud. Ooh, that's hot. I mean, and I got my amp turned all the way down. Let's shut off the active circuit. Wow. That thing is hot, and I haven't even adjusted the height yet. It's way, way far away from the strings. So, yeah, we have a success. I'm going to put off the whole setup on this guitar for a second video because whenever you take a guitar apart like that, you can't just get it all in there. I really want to spend a little bit more time getting everything settled. And from the beginning of the video, you know that I checked some measurements and things were a little bit wonky. So it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We'll talk soon. And remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. And by all means, share with your friends.